was training as a rheumatologist, I became aware of the Feldenkrais technique, which was part of the teaching in where I was training at the time in Western Australia, in the physiotherapy school, interestingly enough. And then as I moved into practice in rheumatology, then in pain medicine, because the patients whom I see are usually well down the track, and they come to see me because things are not working. Because the usual things to which a lot of the patients I see have been exposed haven't worked. And knowing what I did about Feldenkrais and knowing it was available, then I started referring and was very pleased with the results. Well, fundamentally for spinal pain, for pain related to any part of the spine and associated limb girdles, or axial pain, if you like. And the circumstances are just that. They have persistent pain, stiffness, loss of function, and other consequences because of pain experienced in those areas. Even though the pain is experienced in what you might call musculoskeletal tissues, it actually doesn't originate in those tissues. It is a central nervous system phenomenon.
Out of curiosity, would you think that the medical profession generally thinks about pain in that way?
Oh, I know the medical profession generally does not think about pain.
Okay.
In fact, quite the opposite. Pain is still seen as a symptom of a disease state.
Yes.
You find the disease state, treat the disease state, and the pain goes away. We now know that pain is a phenomenon in its own right and doesn't necessarily reflect disease of the body, but it does reflect an altered central nervous system. Somebody comes in with chronic pain, persistent pain, let's call it spinal pain, doesn't really matter. They've usually been investigated uphill and down dale, and a discrete cause or disease or process has not been identified. So not only does this tend to delegitimize the experience, and in some cases cause stigmatization, but also becomes very frustrating, not just for the person who has it, but for people who are trying to help. And conventional Western medicine has been focused on looking at the part of the body that is in trouble.
Right.
But when that's not working, one has to take a step back. And we now know from clinical studies, experimental studies, that part of the central nervous system that's involved in the signaling of tissue damage can be switched on, sensitized, and that is responsible for the pain which people are experiencing, which means you move away from the part that's the problem and you work on the person and that person's nervous system.
Right. And how do you think that the Feldenkrais method does that?
The philosophy of Feldenkrais, as I understand it, is to exploit neural plasticity. That is the potential of the nervous system to learn new ways, in this case, new ways of moving. New ways of moving that don't make the pain worse. It was thought, until relatively recently, that once the organism reached adulthood, that the nervous system was hardwired and set in stone and that things didn't change. Now we now know that the connections between neurons, how they wire together, so to speak, is capable of changing. And in some cases, the structure is even capable of changing. The structure of neurons themselves can change, so that we do not have a hard-wired, inflexible apparatus, but rather a soft-wired one, which promotes learning, new learning. The majority, but I have to say not all, the majority of patients whom I see who go to Feldenkrais have had a very positive experience. That is to say, they have learned useful techniques to allow them to get on with their lives despite the persistence of pain. In the vast majority, I will refer people for functional integration, for one-on-ones in the first instance. I think that really that individual, prolonged contact with the practitioner is very important, because I think it takes a while to really learn, to get into the right mindset, And then to learn not just what the practitioner is trying to teach, but why, what's underlying it. I think you've got to get that on board. Once that's on board, then I think classes are really ideal.